You ever felt like something's just not right, even if you can't explain why? That weird feeling, like the world around you is putting on a carefully choreographed show, but you're the only one who notices the cracks in the script. I've felt that, and maybe after today you'll feel it too. Imagine you're walking down a crowded street in Los Angeles. The neon lights reflect on the wet pavement, creating a hypnotic mosaic of colors. People rush past, each lost in their own world, eyes glued to their glowing screens. But something's off. You notice billboards with familiar images, faces of actors you've watched grow up, ad campaigns for movies that dominated the box office. Yet there's a subtle, almost invisible pattern, a repetition, a hidden message. And suddenly you wonder, who decides what we see? Who controls the stories we believe are real? That question haunted me for a long time, because behind the glamour of Hollywood, there's an invisible engine, a power structure that shapes more than just entertainment. It shapes perceptions, defines heroes and villains, creates icons, and destroys reputations. The real power is never in the spotlight. It operates in the shadows. Recently, a specific event made me question even more. Maybe you've heard about it, or maybe it slipped by unnoticed, hidden under layers of manufactured distractions. An independent director named Alex Morgan mysteriously disappeared after releasing a controversial documentary about media manipulation. It wasn't headline news in the major papers. There was no public outcry, just silence. Alex's documentary talked about the invisible algorithm, a force that doesn't wear hoods or perform hidden rituals, but instead uses lines of code and social networks to control what you see, what you think, even what you feel. Sounds like an exaggeration. Maybe. But his disappearance wasn't the first, nor will it be the last of people who dared to question what lurks beneath the shiny veneer of the entertainment industry. And that's where Mel Gibson comes into the story. Mel Gibson, a figure you probably know from his iconic roles in movies like Braveheart and The Passion of the Christ, was also someone who dared to question. After years of booming success, his career took an abrupt nosedive, marked by scandals, controversies, and above all, a deafening silence from the industry that once applauded him on his feet. What few people know is that shortly before Alex Morgan disappeared, he and Mel Gibson met. Alex was seeking answers to what he had discovered, hidden patterns of control in the media and entertainment industry, and Gibson was a key piece. Not just because he was a victim of the system, but because he had seen what most of us will never see. He's lived the high and the low, and in both he found something in common, an invisible force shaping the behind-the-scenes of Hollywood. Hollywood has always sold the illusion that stories are just stories. But what if they aren't? What if the narratives we consume every day are carefully designed to influence our worldview? I'm not just talking about superhero movies or hit series. I'm talking about the way historical events are portrayed, how certain faces repeatedly appear in global campaigns, while others disappear without explanation. There's a pattern, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. The most intriguing part? It's not just about what's shown. The real control is in what isn't shown. How many stories never made it to you? How many talents were silenced before they even had a chance? How many truths were edited, cut, digitally erased from history? You might think, that's just paranoia. But think about it. In a world where information travels at the speed of light, why do some truths take so long to emerge? Why do certain scandals disappear as quickly as they arise? And why, when something big happens, do social networks seem more concerned with distracting us with memes and viral challenges than with making us question? Silence is the industry's greatest trick, and noise is just a distraction. I'm not here to give you easy answers. In fact, you might leave this video with more questions than when you started. But that's the point. because questioning is the first step to seeing beyond the obvious. In the next few minutes, I'm going to take you on a journey that connects seemingly disconnected events: the disappearance of Alex Morgan, hidden patterns in global media, and Mel Gibson's role not just as a star in decline, but as a living witness to what happens when you defy the system. What you do with this information, that's up to you. But one thing I promise: after watching until the end, you'll never look at a movie, a commercial, or even a social media post the same way again. So, let's begin. And remember, not everything that is visible tells the true story. Passage 2. After the disappearance. After Alex Morgan disappeared, I couldn't sleep the same way anymore. It was as if every piece of information, every seemingly irrelevant detail, was connected by an invisible network. And at the center of that web, there was a name that kept popping up: Mel Gibson. But what exactly did he know? It all started years before Alex disappeared. Mel Gibson, one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces, had conquered the world with movies that transcended generations. Braveheart, The Patriot, The Passion of the Christ, works that not only entertained, but challenged established narratives. And that's exactly where he started to bother people. After the booming success of The Passion of the Christ, something strange happened. Mel was no longer welcome in Hollywood. Doors that were once always open were brutally slammed shut. Promising projects evaporated. His image was destroyed in the media with impressive speed. The public was bombarded with scandals and sensational headlines, but there was something beyond the surface. What few people know is that, before everything fell apart, Mel had started working on a secret project, a movie that never saw the light of day. The script explored sensitive themes, including corruption at high levels of the entertainment industry and the role of large corporations in the manipulation of society. The working title was The Veil, a name that seemed fitting considering what he was about to expose. And it was exactly that project that caught Alex Morgan's attention. Alex was a filmmaker obsessed with hidden truths. His investigative work led him to question dominant narratives, delving deep into themes that most people prefer to ignore. When he found out about The Veil, he knew he needed to talk to Mel. Their meeting was brief, but intense. They met in a discreet office in Los Angeles, away from prying eyes. There are no recordings, just fragments of information left behind, scribbled notes, incomplete audios, and a faded photograph of the two shaking hands. What they discussed that day remains a mystery, but what followed leaves no doubt that they touched something dangerous. A few weeks later, Alex disappeared. Mel Gibson, in turn, faced a new wave of media attacks, as if someone wanted to ensure his voice remained muffled. Coincidence? Hard to believe that when you start connecting the dots. People often think of conspiracies as something grandiose, full of secret rituals and hidden societies. But the truth is much more subtle. Control doesn't happen with esoteric ceremonies in candlelit rooms. It happens in day-to-day decisions, a script that never gets approved, an actor that never gets cast, a documentary that never gets distributed. Mel Gibson was one of the few figures in Hollywood who dared to fight against that, and Alex Morgan paid the price for trying to expose the truth. Now you must be wondering, why does this matter to you? After all, these are just behind the scenes, stories from an industry on the other side of the world, right? Wrong, because what's at stake here isn't just the fate of two men. It's about the control of information, about who decides what you see, what you know, and what you'll never have. A chance to discover. Imagine how many truths are hidden under the weight of carefully constructed narratives. Think about how many stories were erased before they even began, how many voices were silenced before they echoed. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you evidence that never reached the public, fragments of a puzzle that, when assembled, reveal a disturbing portrait of the entertainment industry and how it connects with forces that go far beyond cinema. Get ready, what you're about to see may change the way you see the world forever. Passage 3, the invisible algorithm. You still there? Great, because we're going to dive into something even deeper, something you might never forget after hearing it. However, wait a moment, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave your comment. Alex Morgan's disappearance and the silence surrounding Mel Gibson are just the surface of a colossal iceberg. And the deeper you go, the more you realize that the water is too murky to distinguish what is true from what is manipulation. But why does this matter to you? Because this story isn't just about Hollywood. It's not just about movie stars or eccentric directors. It's about you, about me, about all of us. Imagine for a second that every decision you've ever made, from what to watch on your Saturday night to how you interpret global events, has been in some way influenced by a carefully constructed narrative. A story created not to entertain, but to control, to direct your gaze to where they want, while what really matters happens outside your field of vision. Have you ever stopped to think about why certain movies are promoted with such intensity while others disappear without explanation? Why some celebrities become global icons overnight, while others with the same talent, or even more, never get a real chance? Alex Morgan believed he had found the answer, and that's what led him directly into the eye of the storm. After his meeting with Mel Gibson, Alex became obsessed. He began to track patterns in contracts of major studios, to analyze recommendation algorithms on streaming platforms, and even to map connections between film producers and global media conglomerates. What he discovered was frightening. A complex network of intertwined interests, where entertainment is just the tip of the iceberg. You see, we're not talking about a B-movie conspiracy with secret meetings in dark rooms. The real control happens in broad daylight, camouflaged in normality. In corporate decisions, content policies, and even in seemingly harmless advertising. Campaigns. Want an example? In 2020, a study revealed that more than 70% of the content consumed globally is decided by algorithms controlled by fewer than 5 major companies. Think about it, what you watch, what you read, even what you find funny or inspiring, all filtered by a logic you don't control. Alex began to see an even more disturbing pattern. Global events followed by releases of movies or series that, in a subtle way, shaped public perception about those events. Not as a direct conspiracy, but as a carefully choreographed dance between entertainment and information. And Mel Gibson, he wasn't just a victim, he was one of the few who tried to warn about it. The Passion of the Christ wasn't just a religious film. It was an act of defiance, a scream against an industry that prefers to control narratives than to question them. But the price was high, his reputation was destroyed, his career slowed down, and his voice muffled. Alex, on the other hand, was willing to pay any price, and he may have paid with his own life. Now you must be wondering, what can I do? After all, it seems too big for any of us to face, right? But that's where you're wrong. The real power of these structures isn't in strength, it's in our silent acceptance. They depend on our distraction, our apathy, our willingness to consume without questioning. So what can you do? Question. Observe. Don't take anything at face value. When you watch a movie, ask yourself, why is this story being told now? When a celebrity emerges from nowhere to dominate the headlines, ask yourself, why this person? And most importantly, when a voice disappears overnight, don't forget about it. Ask yourself, what don't they want me to hear? They can control the stories, but they can't control your curiosity. They can't control what you do with the information you have now. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share details from Alex Morgan's last project, an unfinished documentary that may contain the clues to understand all of this. A puzzle that, if assembled, can reveal truths they'd rather keep buried. But remember, knowing the truth is just the beginning. The real challenge is what you do with it. Ready to continue? Passage 4, the spiritual dimension. You still with me? Because we're going to cross a threshold that many avoid, the space where the visible and the invisible meet. Until now, we've talked about media control, narrative manipulation, conspiracies. But there's an even deeper layer that connects all of this, the spiritual. What Alex Morgan discovered and what Mel Gibson tried to expose wasn't just a human power game. It was something bigger, something that goes beyond cameras, contracts, and headlines. Have you ever heard of Ephesians 6:12? For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. That passage echoed in my mind as I investigated, because everything started to make sense. It's not just about who controls the entertainment industry, it's about what's behind it. Alex believed there was an invisible battle going on, not a conventional war, but a spiritual conflict for the control of people's minds and souls. And Mel Gibson, he knew it. Maybe that's why he created The Passion of the Christ, not just as a film, but as an act of spiritual resistance. The unexpected success of the film bothered many people, not just because it challenged industry norms, but because it touched something that transcended entertainment. It was a powerful reminder of Christ's sacrifice, a light shining in a place where many prefer the shadows. Alex saw hidden patterns everywhere, symbols disguised in music videos, narratives that distort fundamental values, and a subtle tendency to ridicule or minimize what is sacred. It's no coincidence. None of this. The most dangerous enemy isn't the one you can see. It's the one that works silently, shaping hearts and minds without you realizing it. And what is the most effective weapon? Entertainment. Because it enters our homes, our routines without resistance. It makes us laugh, cry, dream, and without realizing it, accept ideas that we would have rejected before. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. You're not defenseless. The Bible reminds us in John 8:32, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. The truth is the antidote. Knowledge is the first line of defense. When you start to see beyond the surface, to question, to discern, you recover something they tried to take from you. Spiritual free will. Alex Morgan believed in that. That's why he didn't give up, even when he realized he was facing something much bigger than a corporate conspiracy. And Mel Gibson, he fought not only against the industry, but against an invisible system that tries to suffocate faith, erase hope, and distort the truth. Now the question is, what are you going to do with this? You can choose to ignore it, turn off this video, and move on as if nothing had happened. Or you can choose to see with new eyes, realize that the battle is real, but that you already have the weapons to fight. Faith, discernment, and above all, the courage to question. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share something that may be the final piece of this puzzle. A fragment from Alex Morgan's last message before he disappeared. Words that, I believe, he wanted to reach you. Get ready, because after this, you'll never see the world the same way. Passage 5, Hope and Light. If you've made it this far, it means that something inside of you has been touched. Maybe a doubt, maybe a certainty, or maybe just the desire to see beyond what the world shows. And that, in itself, is already a start. We've been through a journey together that began with the disappearance of Alex Morgan, crossed the deafening silence around Mel Gibson, and led us to question not only what we see, but what we choose not to see. But now, as we approach the end, I want to share something that may be more important than all the revelations so far. Hope. In a world where narratives are manipulated, where truths are hidden, and where fear is used as a tool of control, it may seem that we are alone, but the truth is the opposite. We have never been alone. Remember what is written in John 1:5. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. No matter how dense the darkness around us may seem, the smallest spark of light has the power to break through it, and that light is in you. Alex Morgan believed in that. That's why he continued, even knowing the risks. And Mel Gibson, with all his flaws and imperfections, also believed. What they understood, and what I hope you understand now, is that true power is not in controlling what people see, but in awakening what is dormant within them. You have the power to choose, to question, to seek the truth, not the convenient. Truth, shaped to fit into popular narratives, but the truth that liberates, that transforms, that illuminates. The world will always try to distract us, divide us, keep us in a constant search for something that always seems out of reach. But true peace is not out there, it's inside. And that peace comes from the knowledge that you are more than a passive spectator of history. You are a part of it. Now you may be wondering, what do I do with all this? The answer is simple and at the same time profound. Live consciously. Question what seems obvious. Protect your faith. And never underestimate the impact your light can have in a world that often forgets how much it needs it. As it is written in Matthew 5:14-16, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others." That's the final message. Not about conspiracies, not about Hollywood, but about you, about the power of your voice, your choice, your light. If this journey has made you reflect, if it has touched your heart in some way, I invite you to continue this conversation. Subscribe to the channel so that we can explore together other truths that the world prefers to keep hidden. Share this video with someone you think needs to hear this. And most importantly, leave your comment below. I want to know what you think, what you felt, what this awakened in you, because in the end, that's what matters. People connected, not by the darkness of fear, but by the light of truth and hope. May the peace of Christ be with you, today and always.